think this all happened because, like, when I got with my girl and started building a family, I ain't really have time to kick it with the homies as much.
Like you said, the two is to leave here, either through the door with the deal sign or through this window, and we're on the 29th floor.
So they want you to believe some random woman rides by Rihanna's house and up the place? Stop it, stay woke. It's giving another Flop Nation production.
Michael, and there are several bullet holes left behind from this extremely alarming crime. We're told Rihanna was at home when a suspect repeatedly opened fire right outside her front gate.
Things are getting very scary because people have now put together that both Rihanna and Nicki Minaj's homes in California have both been targeted recently. Because we just learned today that a 30-year-old woman let off 10 rounds at Rihanna's home while she was there. In California, by the way. So people are now bringing up Nicki Minaj's home that also so happens to be in California was targeted on 3 separate occasions, and the caller happened to be a woman.
Suspect was a 2023 to 2024 Tesla 4-door with paper license plate, unknown model. Additional incident 1932.
Y'all, this was never supposed to come out. For days, everything went quiet. No statements. No posts. No sightings. Just silence after gunshots tore through one of the most protected homes in Los Angeles. And people thought it was over. It wasn't. Because now, for the first time, Rihanna and A$AP Rocky have allegedly broken that silence, and what they're saying is sending shockwaves through the industry. This wasn't a fan. This wasn't random. This was planned. Multiple shots. A high-powered rifle. A suspect who drove across states, came disguised, and knew exactly where to aim. And here's the part that's making people uneasy. Rihanna and Rocky weren't even in the main house. They were inside a trailer, and somehow the shooter still targeted the exact location. Let that sink in. How do you miss the mansion but find them? And then it gets worse. A record-breaking bail suddenly slashed with no explanation. No new evidence. No media outrage. Just silence. Again. Now connect that to what's happening behind the scenes. Resurfaced files, powerful names being reviewed, and whispers that Rihanna may know more than she's ever said publicly. And suddenly, this doesn't look like a failed attack. It looks like a warning. Because when Rihanna allegedly says, "We were inside," she's not just telling you where they were. She's telling you they were the target. And if that's true, then the real question isn't who pulled the trigger. It's who sent them.
Can I ask that?
Yeah, but you have to mute it. That was the other day, too.
Y'all, the silence didn't last. For days after the gunshots, there was nothing. No interviews. No statements. Just a locked-down property, unanswered questions, and a narrative that didn't quite sit right. The media moved fast, labeling it a disturbed fan, wrapping it up neatly, and pushing it out of the cycle. But behind that silence, something else was building. Because now, according to emerging reports and alleged insider details, Rihanna and A$AP Rocky have finally broken that silence. And what they're suggesting completely shifts the story. Not random. Not accidental. Deliberate. March 8th, 2026. Beverly Hills. Late afternoon turning into evening. Inside the property, everything was calm. Rihanna was with her children. Family close. Staff nearby. A$AP Rocky moving between spaces. But not in the main house. That's the detail that changes everything. They were in a silver Airstream trailer parked in the driveway. Not the mansion itself. Not the obvious target. Not where anyone would assume they'd be. And then, without warning, the shots rang out. One after another. Over 10 rounds fired from an AR-15 style rifle. The front gate shattered. The exterior walls hit. The driveway area struck. But here's what doesn't make sense. The shots weren't scattered. They were focused. Directed. Toward the exact area where Rihanna and Rocky were at that moment. According to what they allegedly revealed, that realization didn't hit instantly. It came seconds later, when the noise stopped, when the dust settled, when they stepped out and saw where the bullets landed. Not the house, the trailer, "We were inside," Rihanna reportedly said. And in that pause, everything changed. Because if that's true, then this wasn't someone guessing. This was someone who knew. Police moved quickly. Within 30 minutes, the suspect, identified as Ivana Ortiz, was located at a shopping center miles away. Calm. No panic. No attempt to disappear. Inside her vehicle, the weapon, spent casings, a blonde wig, and paper license plates. Prepared.
Rihanna. So Rihanna did a little interview. She spoke on how A$AP Rocky has changed her life for the better. She said, "I stopped going to parties and clubs at 25. When A$AP Rocky and I got closer, his way of life made me want to change a lot about myself and focus more of my energy on my business. We were just friends back then, but he changed a lot about me. Now I prefer to go to work and come back home to my kids or stay home, waiting for my man to come home. If we want to party, we do it as a family. It's just family and business for me right now," says Rihanna. "If we want to party, we do it as a family. It's just family and business for me right now," quotes Riri, Bad Girl Riri. And so when I hear and I see streamers going live with OnlyFans models, and they're being asked questions about certain activities that have happened within the Rocky house, we just report the news. She said that she just spoke to him a few days ago. A$AP Rocky alleged. And Rihanna said she at home barefoot and pregnant, cooking and cleaning, ain't even got time to go get her wig done. That's why she came to court with that crease from the scrunchie in the wig, and she had that big crease across the back. She had a stiff wig. She ain't got time to go get her hair done these days. Rocky got her in the house, not coming outside, focusing on work, while he out here still allegedly parlaying with OnlyFans models. Because remember, there was a little tape of him that's probably still up on X right now that you can see. It's long and skinny of him skiing with a snow bunny, hopping with a snow bunny. I don't know. Y'all believe that? Now, a lot of people say they don't believe it because they're like, why would he go with her if he got Rihanna? They do it all the time. Men do it all the time. You'll be shocked at who they be cheating with because of how nasty. Men cheat based off of how nasty a woman will get, how far she will go. And there's probably certain things that Riri just won't do. She can't do. She got 2 children under the age of 3. And so he wants to get nasty every now and then.
Calculated, premeditated, as the DA would later confirm. And yet, almost immediately, the narrative locked in: unstable individual, social media obsession, religious rants, erratic behavior, case closed. But Rocky, according to what's being said, isn't buying that. This wasn't a breakdown, this was an operation. It's a heavy claim, but when you line up the details, the questions start stacking. A 2,500-mile drive across states, a disguise ready before arrival, extra ammunition, a targeted location, and no hesitation in execution. That's not chaos. That's planning. Then comes the part that's left people even more unsettled: the bail. Initially set at $10.2 million, the highest in Los Angeles County history for a case where no one was physically harmed. A number that signaled extreme danger. High risk. Something serious. And then just 1 week later, it drops. Dramatically. Down to $1.8 million. No new evidence presented. No major update. No shift in charges. Just a quiet reduction. Minimal coverage. No clear explanation. Rihanna, as it's being reported, reacted strongly to that moment. When we saw that, we knew something wasn't right.
Literally throw a ray of, what is it? A ray of force at me to push me down. I don't want you, and you don't go there. And you know what? God's judgment is going to be overwhelming against you when he grabs you and throws you down. I've already seen it. You saw Rihanna. You saw her picture. She has a very big forehead and an ugly, ugly nose. That's God's judgment on her. I keep telling her to stop harassing me. To stop harassing me. And she keeps doing it. She keeps harassing me. And I already bought stock in Ulta. And I have staked in Ulta. So now those energies can't harass me when I go into Ulta.
Because bail isn't just a number, it's a message. It reflects how the system views the threat. So, what changed? And more importantly, who benefits from that change? That's where the story starts to widen. Because around the same time, another narrative was quietly resurfacing, one that had nothing to do with Beverly Hills, but everything to do with power. The Epstein files. Millions of pages released. Names, tips, unverified leads, fragments of a much larger picture. Among them, an anonymous mention of a major figure connected to the music industry. No charges. No confirmation. But enough to spark attention. And for those paying close attention, the timing felt uncomfortable. Because Rihanna isn't just another celebrity. She's been inside the system for over 2 decades. Signed young, elevated fast, present in rooms most people never see, around people most never meet. She knows the timelines, the connections, the overlaps. And according to what's now being suggested, that knowledge might carry weight, especially in a moment where investigators are revisiting old networks, old names, old stories. People think these things are separate, she allegedly said. They're not. It's a statement that doesn't confirm anything, but it doesn't dismiss it either. And then comes the decision that shocked even her own fanbase. The very next day after the attack, she leaves. No press conference. No public reassurance. No return to routine. Just a private jet. Family packed. Destination undisclosed. Gone. And she hasn't come back. Now think about that. If this was truly just an isolated incident, a single unstable person acting alone, the response is usually control, increased security, reinforced protection, staying in place, not disappearing. You don't run unless you believe the threat isn't over. And that's exactly what Rocky is now hinting at. That wasn't the end, that was a message. A message sent loud enough to be heard, but controlled enough to be explained away. And if that's the case, then this story isn't about what happened on March 8th. It's about why it happened, and who wanted it to happen.
So it happened because, like, when I got with my girl and started building the family, I ain't really have time to kick it with the homies as much. That's why I said just a sec ago, I appreciate my brothers who's still here, who's still down, because they understand that and they respect that. They really genuinely happy for it, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, I ain't trying to be no role model. I'm really just doing me. I'm happy and I be trying to protect that peace. People think I'm trying to be mysterious or mystique. Nah, I know that when you on Front Street about nah, bro, like, you gotta protect your peace, protect your heart. If something is real, you know, and for niggas who ain't really there for you and really got that real love for you, they not gonna understand that. They gonna look at it like your success is there.
Interview 9:59, 10:45. And just when it seemed like the story couldn't get any darker, it did. Because once you move past the headlines, past the fan narrative, past the quick arrest and the quiet bail reduction, you start to see something else forming underneath. A pattern. One that doesn't begin with the shooting, but long before it. Because Ivana Ortiz didn't just appear out of nowhere. Months before the attack, her digital footprint was already raising alarms. Videos, rants, direct mentions of Rihanna, accusations that didn't fully make sense, mixed with religious language, paranoia, and fixation. On the surface, it painted a clear picture. Instability. And that's exactly why many stopped looking deeper. But here's what complicates that narrative. For months before the shooting, Ortiz filed a lawsuit, not against Rihanna, against Live Nation. She attempted to block a concert, claiming it would cause her harm. The case was dismissed quickly. No major coverage, no follow-up, just another strange filing that went unnoticed. Until now. Because Live Nation isn't just any company. It's one of the most powerful forces in the global music industry, deeply connected to touring, promotion, and artist management. And more importantly, tied into the same network that has been linked, discussed, and questioned in multiple ongoing investigations, including those involving Roc Nation, including those connected to names now being revisited in resurfaced files. And suddenly, that random lawsuit doesn't feel so random anymore. Now combine that with what Rihanna and Rocky are allegedly implying. This wasn't just her. That statement alone has split the internet. Because if Ortiz wasn't acting alone, then who was she connected to? Was she influenced, directed, or simply used? There's a theory, one that's been circulating quietly but persistently, that the industry has, in the past, leaned on individuals with unstable public profiles to carry out actions that can later be dismissed. A built-in explanation. A convenient ending. Crazy person. Case closed. It's a theory that's impossible to confirm, but difficult to ignore when the pieces start aligning. And then there's the timeline. January 30th. Massive document release tied to Epstein. March 3rd. Confirmation that certain names are being reviewed. March 8th. Shots fired at Rihanna's home. 5 days. That's all it took. Coincidence? Maybe. But as Rocky reportedly said, timing like that doesn't just happen. And if you follow that line of thinking, if you assume for a moment that timing does matter, then the focus shifts again. Back to Rihanna. Not just as a target, but as a variable. Because of where she's been, who she's been around, what she might know. For over 20 years, she's moved through spaces that most never even hear about. Private events, closed-door meetings, industry gatherings where power isn't just visible, it's controlled. She's seen the rise of empires and the silence that protects them. So when her name begins circulating, not in headlines, but in conversations tied to investigations, testimonies, and potential witnesses, it changes her position. She's no longer just an artist. She becomes a risk. And if that's the case, then what happened on March 8th starts to look less like an attack, and more like a signal, a controlled escalation. Something loud enough to be felt, but deniable enough to be managed. Rocky's alleged reaction adds another layer. Because while the public saw silence behind the scenes, there are reports he reached out, spoke to close contacts, and received warnings. Not confirmations. Warnings. Take her out of there. Don't wait. Don't assume it's over. And that's exactly what he did. Within hours, the decision was made. No delay. No hesitation. They left. And since then, nothing. No updates. No appearances. No reassurance to fans. Just absence. Which, in situations like this, speaks louder than words. Meanwhile, other voices have chosen a different approach. 50 Cent, someone who has historically been vocal, especially when it comes to defending Rihanna, has remained publicly silent on this specific incident. Unusual, but not entirely unexpected. Because instead of posting, reacting, or calling things out directly, he's been focusing on something else entirely. Producing documentaries. Stories that don't name names but don't need to. Letting the audience connect dots instead of drawing them explicitly. It's a different kind of response. One that suggests awareness, without exposure. Because in a landscape like this, saying too much can cost everything. And others have learned that the hard way. Names like Cat Williams, Corey Feldman, Rose McGowan, individuals who spoke and faced consequences. Careers shifted, reputations questioned, voices minimized. So maybe silence isn't avoidance. Maybe it's strategy. And that brings us back to the present, to the unanswered questions. Because despite everything, the arrest, the evidence, the official statements, the core mystery remains untouched. Why Rihanna? Why now? And why does every explanation feel incomplete? Two major theories continue to dominate the conversation. The first, personal. ASAP Rocky's past conflict with A$AP Rocky, a case involving alleged gunfire, legal battles, and unresolved tension. Even though Rocky was acquitted, some believe that chapter isn't fully closed. Could this be retaliation? A delayed response? Possibly. But it doesn't explain everything. The planning, the timing, the broader connections. Which leads to the second theory, the one gaining the most traction. That Rihanna, knowingly or unknowingly, became entangled in something much larger than herself. Something tied to power, to information, to systems that don't operate in public view. And if that's true, then what happened wasn't random. It wasn't isolated. It was intentional. A moment designed to send a message without starting a war. And the most chilling part? According to what's being said, that message was received. Loud and clear. Because Rihanna didn't stay. She didn't fight back publicly. She didn't dismiss it. She left. And sometimes that tells you everything you need to know. And if you thought that was the end of it, it wasn't. Because what happens after an event like this often matters more than the event itself. And right now, everything about what followed feels controlled, carefully managed. Almost like the story is being allowed to exist, but only up to a certain point. Because think about it. A high-profile shooting at the home of one of the most recognized figures on the planet. Multiple rounds fired. A military-style weapon. A suspect with a clear trail of preparation. And yet, within days, the coverage slows. The urgency fades. The questions stop. No deep dives. No aggressive follow-ups. No pressure for answers. Just a quiet shift back to normal programming. That alone has people asking why. Because when something this big happens, silence isn't natural. It's enforced. And according to what Rihanna and A$AP Rocky are now allegedly suggesting, that silence might not be accidental. They don't want us to go further, Rocky reportedly said. Not because there's nothing more to uncover, but because there's too much. And that's where the narrative takes its most unsettling turn. Because behind closed doors, there are claims, unverified but persistent, that this wasn't just about intimidation. It was about control. Control of narrative. Control of perception. Control of what gets seen and what gets buried. Because once a story is labeled unstable fan, isolated incident, no injuries, it becomes easier to move on. Easier to dismiss. Easier to forget. But what if that label was the goal? What if the entire situation was designed to look just believable enough to avoid deeper investigation? That's the question people can't shake. And then there's Rihanna's behavior since the incident. No return. No public reassurance. No attempt to reclaim normalcy. Instead, complete withdrawal. Which, for someone at her level, is rare. Because public figures are trained to control narratives. To appear strong. To reassure audiences. But this time she didn't. She disappeared. And according to what's now being said, that decision wasn't just emotional. It was strategic. Because as one alleged insider put it, She understood what that moment meant. Not just the danger, but the message behind it. And that message wasn't subtle. It wasn't hidden. It was direct. You can be reached. That's what makes this different. Because this wasn't an online threat. This wasn't speculation. This was physical, precise, close. And once that line is crossed, everything changes. Rocky's response, as described in multiple reports, reflects that shift. Less public, more calculated, less reactive, more aware. Because if there's even a possibility that this goes beyond one person, beyond one incident, then every move matters. Every word matters. Every appearance matters. And that's exactly why their silence before this moment was so loud. But now that they've allegedly spoken, even in fragments, even indirectly, the impact is already visible. The conversation has changed. People are no longer asking what happened. They're asking, why does this feel bigger? And more importantly, who doesn't want us asking that question? Because the deeper you look, the more the edges start to blur. The shooter's background raises questions, but doesn't answer them. The bail decision creates doubt, but no clarity. The timing aligns, but isn't explained. And the reaction, or lack of it, from powerful voices only adds to the tension. Even the theories, as wild as some may seem, exist for a reason. Because when official explanations feel incomplete, speculation fills the gap. And right now, that gap is wide open. Some believe it traces back to personal conflicts, old disputes, lingering grudges, unresolved history. Others think it points towards something much larger. An ecosystem. A network. A structure that operates quietly, but reacts quickly when necessary. And in that version of events, Rihanna isn't just a target. She's a variable, a potential risk. Someone who has seen too much, and might say too much. Again, nothing confirmed, but enough to keep the conversation alive. And that's the part that can't be controlled. Because once people start connecting dots, real or perceived, the narrative becomes harder to contain. Harder to manage. Harder to silence. Which brings us to the present moment, where everything is technically resolved, but nothing feels finished. The suspect is in custody. The charges are filed. The headlines have moved on. But Rihanna is still gone. Rocky is still quiet. And the questions are still unanswered. So now it comes down to this. If this really was just one person acting alone, then why does every detail feel like part of something bigger? Why does the response feel restrained? Why does the silence feel intentional? And why did two people who have lived their entire lives in the spotlight choose for the first time to step completely out of it? Because maybe, just maybe, they're not stepping away from attention. They're stepping away from something else. Something they don't want to face again. Something they can't control. Something that, for one brief moment on March 18th, got close enough to remind them exactly how real it is. And now, everything comes down to this moment. Because no matter how you try to frame it, no matter how quickly the headlines moved on, one fact refuses to disappear. Someone pulled up to Rihanna's home, fired over 10 shots, and walked away knowing exactly what they were doing. That alone should have shaken the entire industry. But it didn't. It was contained, quieted, controlled. And that's what makes this even more dangerous. Because when something this serious gets buried this fast, it tells you there are forces at play that don't want attention. They want silence. And Rihanna breaking that silence, even slightly, has already shifted the energy. People are no longer buying the simple explanation. They're asking harder questions. They're connecting dots. Who sent her? Why that night? Why did the system suddenly ease up right after? And more importantly, why did Rihanna leave instead of standing her ground? That's not fear. That's awareness. Because when you realize the threat isn't over, you don't wait for a second warning. You move. Fast. And that's exactly what happened. Now the spotlight is back, but this time it's different. This time people are watching closer, listening harder, refusing to accept surface-level answers. Because deep down, everyone feels it. This story isn't finished. It's just getting started. So the real question is no longer what happened. The real question is what happens next. Because if this was a warning, then the next move won't be quieter. It'll be louder. And this time, everyone will be watching.